welcome back to But Why Tho, the podcast, and today we are talking about the familia again. We're revisiting Fast and the Furious. As always, I'm Kate, and I'm here with Adrian.
Hey, how's it going?
And Matt.
Hello.
And we have a special guest to come talk about the family, Nikko.
Hey, guys. Thanks for having me on.
Thanks for coming.
And,
I'm doing the whole recording like this.
Yeah, I don't really need to say it, but Adrian's leading this episode, so take it away.
So we're revisiting the Fast and Furious franchise, spin-off franchise thing that involves Fast and Furious things, because it's becoming just like this crazy monster at this point. But it's a revisit from episode 16, I believe, so another pretty early on one, and we kind of just like talked about the movies and like the family, but we really didn't talk too much about like the production history of the series, or now more interestingly than ever, like the background drama stuff between not just like The Rock, but like Michelle Rodriguez and things like that. So with the success, I mean, I guess it's not done going yet, and it hasn't made as much money as I guess they thought it was going to be, but like with the success of Hobbs and Shaw, that'd be a good idea to kind of revisit and then bring on another guest for it. So there's intro questions are really easy for Fast and the Furious. We're just gonna ask like, what's your favorite Fast and the Furious movie, kind of like how we did last time, and then go from there. So Kate.
Tokyo Drift. It's the best one. That's all I gotta say. It's my favorite. I love it. I know his accent's terrible. Don't at me. I know it, but it's the best one. End of story.
What about you, Matt?
Considering I've only seen like 4 of these monstrosities, probably go with the original one, the Fast and the Furious from 2001, back when it was just about cars and not whatever the hell it's about now.
It's never been about the cars, and that's what I want to talk about today, because cars are always just been a background thing. It was only about the cars for like one movie.
That movie.
And even then, it was still always about the familia. What about you, Nikko?
I mean, I've only seen like a couple of them, but I know about them. But I don't know. I think my favorite one has to be the most recent one, the Hobbs and Shaw side movie. It's one of the most absurd movies that I've ever seen in my life. But I mean, I don't know. I mean, it has Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, one of my favorite wrestlers, and yeah, it's just funny, and yeah, I had a good time watching it. So yeah.
So basically, we have Kate, who likes the one movie that doesn't fit in, Nikko, who likes the spinoff, and I just like the original. We're off to a great start.
Hey, we're doing great, and it's basically turning into like retired WWE superstar franchise at this point too, which is
basically, yeah,
a point we'll talk about a little bit later on. For me, I still really like Fast 5. I think Fast 5 gives you everything you need. There's some street racing in that one. There's some heist stuff in that one. There's some fighting in that one. Yeah. And being the transitional movie, I think it's like the best of both worlds. So I think Fast 5 is my favorite.
And when you mean transition, you mean like when it starts going to like their superheroes.
Yeah. And we'll talk about that. Like a lot of the stuff that happens, and I really didn't mean on the last time we did this. It was just after Fate of the Furious. So we just really kind of talked about like the movies and like the actors and stuff, but we didn't do like any real production history. But doing the kind of setup for this episode, usually we talk about the production history first before the But Why Those. But the production history for this one is a But Why Though in and of itself, because the transition was pretty intentional, and it wasn't just like, all right, now we're superheroes. Like they really did try to like do a transitional phase when things didn't work. Like, sorry, Kate, like when Tokyo Drift almost sent it into like they're not going to do these
Hey,
things
hey, hey.
anymore.
I have a reason for that because Tokyo Drift is essentially shot for shot Initial D, so that's why. Which is Initial D was a drifting anime. It was a car anime,
Yeah,
and then live action.
yeah, makes sense.
This.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Well, we'll get into it a little bit. So like from last time, if you did not listen to episode 16, but why those mainly it makes a bunch of money at the moment. It's the 7th highest grossing movie franchise at 5.1 billion. Might be a little bit over that now with the was it third weekend of Hobbs and Shaw out now. It's probably going to catch X-Men for number 6 because Hobbs and Shaw is doing pretty well. I think Hobbs and Shaw is at like 400 million or something like that at the moment worldwide, if I'm not mistaken. We also talked about Paul Walker and his relationship with racing culture and its impact on Fast and the Furious. We talked about the diversity in the cast, the portrayals of men and women, and then, of course, the focus on family is mainly what we talked about. And then today we'll be talking about kind of production history and its impact on the franchise, as well as kind of like the underlying things that might not let this franchise keep going as it is, and it might just turns into The Rock being a superhero. Like this might be his transitional movie to be like Black Adam or something crazy. Who knows?
Question.
He did tweet at the Walking Dead creators because they liked Hobbs and Shaw, and he's like, "Well, we're gonna come to your franchise," like jokingly, of course, but like,
Jokingly, but is he really? Because The
That's
Rock
so funny.
finds franchises and gets in them.
yeah, yeah. So like,
That's so funny.
I mean,
Does he actually
jokingly,
make
but
the franchise any better though?
It needs to have The Rock.
Yeah,
it
that's
depends
about
on like
it.
what you
Just
mean
The
by
Rock.
like better. I mean, do they make a lot of money? Because Jumanji made a buttload of money.
Jumanji
The
wasn't
rest,
bad.
Fascinating.
But yeah,
I
but
thought it was fine. I thought it was really good. I enjoyed it. What were you gonna say, Nico?
no, I was just gonna say that, like, yeah, but like all of his like films that he's done on his own, like Skyscraper or Sky, I don't even know what it's called, or like that other
Rampage.
The
film
knockoff
that
Die
was
Hard movie.
yeah, or like the other movie where it was like based off of a video game that was supposed to start something like I don't know. Like if anything that I've learned about The Rock is just that he does not do well on his own, but like when he's with someone or with like an ensemble, it's more like he manages to sort of carry it forward, or maybe not carry it forward, but at least like those movies do a lot better.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I mean, I also think like The Rundown and like movies like those dumb movies I think are still pretty good
Well, that's
too.
what I think.
But I also
They
just
have like there's a different Rock now that exists than there was when he first started his acting career. Like I think there's like eras of The Rock. I think is safe to say.
yeah.
And like
Yeah, now we're just like an FU, like I do what I want because I'm the Rock
Exactly.
territory, which is what we're gonna get into a little bit later on because like when multiple people have beef with you in like a franchise thing, it might not be the other people. As
I do have a
is what
question
I'm.
Before we go any further, though, are we going to talk about how awesome the Japanese names are first, as well?
Yes. So again, like last time in our intro section, I basically gave like a brief synopsis of the movies, which we're going to do again, just in case like you don't remember or whatever the case is. And then I'll be giving all of the Japanese titles for the movies, including Hobbs and Shaw.
That one got one
yeah.
too.
Yeah, it did. They're all going to get them, and they're all pretty good. So we'll just jump into it just real quick. And again, starting with the production history, The Fast and the Furious, The Fast and the Furious, not Fast and Furious, because that's a whole other movie.
Confuses the crap out of me.
Yeah, it does. And I'm glad they just do like Fast and Furious franchise, and not like The Fast and the Furious franchise presents Hobbs and Shaw. I don't know, just like the extra thes.
You don't want to write out that long name every time.
No, I didn't even want to do it in my review. In 2001, and the Japanese title for the first movie is Wild Speed. And you'll find a theme in the Japanese titles which are more clever than the American titles. It's directed by Rob Cohen. You may know him from Dragonheart, Stealth, Triple X with Vin Diesel, and surprisingly, The Boy Next Door, which I forgot about. Premise is like super simple. Undercover cop Brian O'Connor, played by Paul Walker, is trying to infiltrate the street racing world in California to stop a series of 18-wheeler hijackings. Brian gets in the familia, led by Dom Toretto, Vin Diesel, and his girlfriend Letty, Michelle Rodriguez. Brian falls for Dom's sister, Mia, Jordana Brewster, and in the end, they find out that the family does the hijackings, and he has to basically, stop them. All this stuff happens. It made $207 million on a $38 million budget, so pretty, modest movie at the time. And the creation of this whole franchise starts in the early 2000s. The turnaround for this movie was pretty quick. They come up with the idea, and then they did it. Paul Walker had wrapped up filming The Skulls. I've never seen the movie, and I've never even heard of this movie. Oh.
Isn't that the one about the undercover, or not the undercover, the underground society thing?
Yes, it's based on some of the secret societies that actually do exist at Ivy League colleges. They're
Yep.
ultra skeevy, creepy frats.
Yeah, I passed on this one.
It ain't good.
Interesting.
But he did that movie with Rob Cohen, and then Rob Cohen had secured a deal with producer Neil H. Moritz for an untitled action film for Universal, and approached Walker for the idea of his dream action movie, with basically Paul Walker suggesting a mashup of Days of Thunder with Tom Cruise, which is a NASCAR movie from the 90s, and Donnie Brasco with Al Pacino, and Johnny Depp, which is basically a 1970 crime drama. So they kind of that's what he wanted to do from the start, just smash them together. Well, that's what Walker wanted to do. Cohen and Moritz brought Walker a Vibe magazine, and we talked a little bit about this in the last episode, but in 1998, and is basically detailing the underground street racing in New York, and suggested that they just basically redo Point Break, but with this plot of the movie. And Paul Walker immediately jumps on it, and they actually had to purchase the rights for The Fast and the Furious from a film in 1995 or 1955, and then they basically just went forward with it, which is also leads me to believe why did you just make it Fast and Furious to begin with, not have to go through getting the rights from a film from 1955?
Oh yeah,
but,
just drop the "thes" and totally skirt
Yeah.
copyright law.
Yeah, I think that would have been easier, but whatever. So Walker signs on basically once the magazine's dropped in front of him, and Timothy Oliphant was originally supposed to play Dominic Toretto, but he declined because of how well Gone in 60 Seconds did. And as a result, they went with Vin Diesel, based mainly off of his performance from Pitch Black in 2000, but only came on after some script changes, which is reportedly the stuff about family and things. So it wasn't just a street racing crime movie. It was a street racing crime movie with family, is basically why he signed on. And, almost immediately started making changes to the scripts, which he's ought to do later on in the franchise. Then you have Too Fast, Too Furious, which personally is one of my favorite names of a movie, mainly because the song with Ludacris is really good. I think I like the twos. I like the twos better than I like the thes. I think they're better addition. And this is in 2003, and then the Japanese title for this movie was Wild Speed X2 or Times 2. I'm not really sure.
2.
Well, usually if it's time to the 2, it'd be before the X, so.
No, that would be 2 times.
Well,
Wild Speed 2 times does have a
X2.
nice ring to it too.
Actually, that does. It's now Wild Speed 2 times.
This one was directed by John Singleton, who did Boys in the Hood. And the premise of this one, Brian O'Connor, Paul Walker's character, is now living in Miami and no longer a cop after he let Dom, Vin Diesel's character, go at the end of the first movie. And he's basically back to street racing with his friends, primarily Tej, who's played by Ludacris. Because of reasons, Brian has to team up with Roman Pierce, played by the great Tyrese, and Monica, who is played by Eva Mendes, to take down Judd Lord Cartel, Carter Verone, played by Cole Hauser. This one made $236 million on a $76 million budget, so up the budget cost and didn't see the real gains in the financial aspect of it. I think this movie's fine. One of my favorite lines of the entire movie is when Tyrese says, "Like I said, we hungry." just
It's
because
not
his character
Ejectocito?
Ejectocito Cuz is also really good. I like Tyrese's character in the movies a whole lot, just because his dumb one-liners. So it doesn't make a lot of the changes to the script really happen because Vin Diesel doesn't want to come back to do the second movie because he thought that the script overall just wasn't as good. So he went on to go do Triple X with Rob Cohen as director. And this led to a whole bunch of things. So, like, it led to the movie being delayed, but they brought in John Singleton as the director, which allowed for Tyrese Gibson to come in because they'd worked together on Baby Boy. And basically, because like Ludacris is in it, and it's supposed to be like, you know, a different kind of vibe, they moved the production to Miami. So it caused the movie to be delayed a little bit, but you know, it allowed us to get Ejectocito Cuz, which, you know, I think that's a good trade off.
I do want to say it had been years since I seen this movie, and I just realized I had never seen the movie uncut. But this last Christmas when Matt's family came over, for some reason we just had family bonding time over watching the first 3 Fast and the Furious movies. And it was actually pretty fun. And the laughing was great.
Yeah. This movie's just dumb.
It's real dumb. It's all real dumb. Let's get that out there. It's all real dumb.
I did 3 years, Brian. 3 years. What's up, Nikko?
No, I was just gonna say that it's weird that I didn't know that there was an uncut version.
Well, no, I mean like I've only ever watched it on like TNT.
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
I only ever watched it on TNT, and then I got to watch it like not edited on Netflix for the first time this past winter.
Yeah. This one for sure was on all the time on TNT and TBS, like constantly.
And it always made me sad because I always wanted to watch the first one, but they only ever played this one.
Yeah. I'm going to say because Tyrese and Eva Mendes, maybe? Or maybe more because of Eva Mendes?
Maybe.
Who knows?
Possibly.
But I know FX still plays the first one a lot.
Yeah. So in 2006, we get Kate's favorite movie, The Fast and the Furious Tokyo Drift, or probably like the least, you know, pleasing title for Japan, Wild Speed 3 in 2006.
Also known as
and this
initial D. 10 years later.
This one is directed by Justin Lin, who would go on to direct the next 3 movies. He's done obviously like a bunch of stuff, but at the time when I did these notes 2 years ago, Star Trek Beyond like was one of his biggest things. For the premise of this movie, Sean Boswell, played by Lewis Black, lives in Japan with his father, who is in the military. He becomes friends with Twinkie, Little Bow Wow.
I forgot his name was Twinkie.
Oh wow!
I forgot his name was Twinkie too. Reading that is hilarious.
Wow. I haven't seen that movie in forever.
Twinkie. I don't remember them ever saying his name.
Now I'm just like picturing Lucas Black saying Twinkie with that terrible accent.
Oh, why
Come on,
can't I
Twinkie.
remember them saying this name though? Like, I feel like I should remember this.
And his friend Han Sung Kang, who helps navigate the world of drifting in Tokyo and leads to an eventual conflict with the nephew of the head of the Yakuza, known as the Drift King. And then Vin Diesel makes a cameo at the very end of the movie. Surprisingly, this movie had an $85 million budget, but only made $158 million. For this one, Universal tried to bring back Diesel for the 3rd installment, but he declined due to other projects. He's doing Chronicles of Riddick, et cetera, the Pacifier, and he also didn't like the script either. So as a result, Universal basically ordered a reboot of the franchise and attempts to revive the series primarily for car enthusiasts with new characters, focus on car-related subcultures, and moving the series to Tokyo. The 3rd movie was the least financially successful and received had a lukewarm reception, and basically left the franchise in limbo. Like Universal almost just went to the direct DVD route for the rest of the franchise, just to like pump out the movies. But but Universal convinced Diesel to come back for a small surprise cameo in Tokyo Drift. And in return for the appearance, Diesel wasn't paid. However, Universal did give him the rights to the Riddick franchise, basically for that little cameo, which I thought was like a nice little. I mean, that's not. You come in, and he's for 5 seconds, and you get the rights to the entire franchise that you really like doing. So,
I will say my favorite thing about Fast and the Furious Tokyo Drift is that Han's name is Han Solo. It's Han Solo. Han Solo.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, no, it's just really funny because I think they expected this to do well in Japan, but like based on like what they focus it on. But when on my other podcast and we did a watch and review of Initial D, a lot of the guys, like the car guys and stunt coordinators from Initial D, actually worked on Tokyo Drift, and that was purposeful, because they wanted to replicate it very bad. So I'm not just mean when I say it's a rip of Initial D, but I love it. So that says
when Stefani and I went, we tried to like find we Googled, we did all this stuff to kind of find like where this subculture was at in Tokyo, and we found nothing. And I was kind of sad. I kind of wanted to just go.
Yeah, because it's
go. I love that song, man. That song slaps. But no, it was mostly like boxy van cars and people on bikes. Almost the entire time we were in Tokyo. So after seeing a huge response from like Diesel's appearance in the movie, the studio basically handed Diesel a large amount of creative control to basically, save it from going direct to DVD route, to make a bunch of D movies.
So what made them think that Diesel could bring it back from going that way?
My point is why they keep wanting to make these movies as well, which is kind of the same question in sense of what Kate said.
Well, never mind. I was gonna say I would assume Blumhouse logic, but that wouldn't make sense because these are very expensive movies.
I'm not really sure like why they wanted to keep doing it, because they just weren't making as much money, anymore. Like if you look at the box office mojo, like this movie is a killer franchise, but like basically after Fast 5, like Fast 5 and on. But I think that because of how well, like Chronicles of Riddick and things like that were received well? I don't know. I think that's another one of those movies where like people tell me they don't like it, and I'm like, what? That movie's amazing. And he's coming off of like XXX and stuff, so I think they just thought, we'll give him one more shot and we'll see what happens, I guess is like the thought there, instead of just making it go direct to DVD, maybe. I'm not sure now that I'm thinking about it.
I mean, from the looks of things, I just pulled up the Chronicles of Riddick really quickly. It's a 29% on Rotten Tomatoes, so I'm assuming that not a lot of people liked it, but I don't know.
Well, those 29% people can be my friend, and then everyone else can.
I just remember one of them was good and one of them was bad. Outside of Pitch Black.
I mean, some people don't like Riddick because they try to like blend Pitch Black and Chronicles of Riddick together. But he also like hangs out with his alien dog for most of the movie.
That's the one he saves. Yeah. Okay, now I remember which one that one is. I didn't really care for that one too much. Okay. Moving on.
Yeah, so then we have then they start dropping the thes and just go Fast and Furious for the fourth movie in 2009. And the Japanese title for this one is Wild Speed Max, but it's MAX all caps, because that's how you know that it's Max. And this one, again, just directed by Justin Lin. And the premise of this one, it's basically kind of the reboot to the reboot, I guess. Because 5 years after the first film, the family are in the Dominican Republic, hijack fueling tankers, because they're basically like still on the run from what happened in the first movie. Police pressure forces the family to split up. Months later, Dom's sister Mia tells them that Letty has been killed. No, you can't kill Letty. Then the rest of the movie follows Dom trying to find out who did it, which makes him run into Brian, who's now working for the FBI, who's trying to bring down the same guy. Yeah, it's not. I think it's not a terrible movie, but also like follows that same trend of where I believe this one made 300 million. I guess so. Like the trend is starting to go back up, but it's still on that $85 million budget.
Yeah.
So you're not seeing like serious gains, but this is starting to go back to the profitable route for the franchise. And basically, like Diesel, like while he wasn't doing the Fast and the Furious franchise, and I guess like as we saw, Chronicles of Riddick at 29%, The Pacifier, Find Me Guilty are not doing super great.
Oh, I forgot he was in Find Me Guilty. I forgot about that movie.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And basically, Universal approaches him to revive the franchise with the old family. And now that I'm thinking about it, like they might have like approached him to do it because if you look at it, the first Fast and the Furious movie does really well. He's in the movie. He had some creative input on it. It does well. Second movie doesn't do as well. Third movie almost tanks the franchise. So I guess like the logical thing is if you want to give it another go, you bring back the guy who made changes to your scripts to make your first movie good, I'd imagine.
That makes sense.
Walker was initially reluctant to rejoin the franchise after 6 years, but Diesel assured him that the film would be considered the first true sequel. This movie is considered a soft reboot as emphasis on car culture was toned down. The fourth movie, Fast and Furious, was unilaterally commercial success, although the critical reception was mixed. It reinvigorated the franchise, as well as like kind of the star power of Diesel and Walker. Then you have the big one, Fast 5 in 2011, which its Japanese title is Wild Speed, all caps, Megamax.
I love that title so
Which is a good one. Again, directed by Justin Lin. So the premise of this one, unable to go back to the U.S., Dom, Brian, and Mia plan to steal $100 million from the corrupt Brazilian businessman. To do this, Dom and Brian bring in some extra help. Vince from the first movie, Tej and Roman from Too Fast, Too Furious, Han from Tokyo Drift and Fast and the Furious, Giselle, played by Gal Gadot, Leo and Santos from the fourth movie, and this is basically like the new family tries to pull off the heist, all while being chased by Hobbs, who's played by The Rock, who's trying to arrest them.
Is this the
Saying that all in one thing, I'm like, Jesus Christ, this is not the Cast Flex. Yeah. But this is the one where now that I'm like reading out that again, I'm like, man, they just brought everyone back for this movie and then added on more pieces. I'm surprised this movie made so much money.
Which obviously, I'm assuming this is when they retcon the entire Han thing since he dies in Tokyo Drift.
Oh, right.
It's not retcon because this is supposed to take place this is supposed to lead him to going to Tokyo because he's hiding out in Tokyo, and we know he's hiding out in Tokyo.
Okay, my bad. Instead of retcon, they prequel the entire thing now all of a sudden.
Yeah, which I guess doesn't make sense because what year is Tokyo Drift supposed to be happening?
That's what I'm saying. Like, it has to be retconned as the way it makes sense with Dom Toretto in the end of Tokyo Drift.
Well, it's Tokyo Drift happens in between 6 and 7.
Okay.
Because that's when, like you said, Han is like doing his own thing in between 6 and 7.
Okay.
Yeah. So the timeline's a little weird, but that's what happens when like you make 3 movies that aren't really connected together, and then you try to like bring everything back to one thing.
They kind of makes me feel like they should have just thrown out those movies, I guess. But then, like, I guess we wouldn't have the family as it stands if they threw out anything.
Yeah. Yeah, and then you wouldn't get the possibility of them bringing in Lucas Black eventually, as I do.
Eventually,
in
that meeting at the end of Tokyo Drift is going to come to fruition.
Yeah, it's going to matter. So, Diesel. Oh, so then this movie made like $600 million, I believe. Yeah, $600 million on a. No, that's just kidding. This one made, $600 million on a $125 million budget. So now we're seeing a lot bigger gains financially. And Diesel felt that the story between the characters portrayed by himself and Walker should continue, envisioning basically it as envisioning like as 3 chapters, where Fast Five would be the last kind of chapter in that relationship. And Diesel also wanted to bring back a variety of characters that had been in the previous films, to basically go have like a lot of fun making the movie. And then while developing the film, Universal wholeheartedly departed from the street racing theme prevalent in the previous movies to transform the franchise into a heist series that involves cars. By doing so, they hoped to attract a wider audience that might otherwise be put off by the heavy emphasis on cars and car culture. Fast Five is considered the transitional film in the series, featuring really only one car race and giving more attention to the action set pieces, big gunfights, brawls, and the heist, and the fact that they drug a big ass safe through Brazil. And of course, they added The Rock, which is seen as a big thing, and we'll kind of play into some of the beefy stuff that we talk about later.
So I do have a question here, though.
Yes.
So Nikko, you said obviously you were a big fan of The Rock. So is this kind of like when you kind of started getting involved in the franchise here, per se? Because obviously you said you haven't seen them all, but I'm assuming this is kind of like what their goal was. I'm assuming kind of brought you here.
Oh no, yeah, of course, yeah. I watched some of the previous movies before The Rock came in. I had a friend of mine who was really into the series, trying to get me into them, and I just could not get into them whatsoever. Like, I did not care about car culture or any of those movies. But yeah, definitely once The Rock came in, I was 100% on board.
So is it just The Rock, or did you like this whole? Because obviously you mentioned you were in car culture. Did you like that they moved, I guess, to this whole absurdity of action heist that's over the top and makes no damn sense? But yes.
Yeah, totally. I mean, yeah, like I grew up watching movies like, well, I mean, I don't really know if the Terminator would follow under like absurdity, but like those kind of movies are like a bunch of like old 80s, 90s action movies that just made no sense. So yeah, that's another big reason why I gave the series another try.
Well, there we go.
Yeah, looks like it worked. Yeah, so like they basically wanted to do something in the vein of like the Italian Job, the French Connection, and things like that. Universal chairman Adam Fogelson had said the question putting Fast Five and Fast Six together for us was, can we take it out of being a pure car culture movie and into being a true action franchise in the spirit of those great heist films made 10 or 15 years ago? So again, like a very intentional transition, not just like, okay, now they're superheroes. They wanted to like make the transition to, again, attract a wider audience and, you know, make more money at the end of the day, which worked because it made twice as much money as the movie before it. And that just keeps on going when you look at Fast and Furious 6, which again gets you weird titling, like Fast and Furious 6. Is there why isn't it just called Fast 6? Who knows? I don't understand. Like, Vin Diesel has all this input, but I don't know why he doesn't have an input on like the titling of the movies.
So,
but
I do have a question. Oh, go ahead. Sorry, say the
Yes.
Japanese name first.
Oh, yeah. So the Japanese title is Wild Speed Euro Mission.
So, because of these Japanese titles, I am curious, and I don't know if you'll have an answer, but like I am curious as to how the Fast and the Furious franchise kind of like sits within Japanese culture. And it could just be a translation thing, but like the Japanese titles are great, but they're great because they sound like those terrible B movie titles like Velocipaster. Like,
yeah.
And so for me, I'm wondering, I mean, I'm not saying people here in the US take it seriously, but like I wonder how, if they're marketed as like insane B movie things versus like, I mean, I wouldn't say they're marketed like that here. But I'm just curious as to how they fit in, just based on title naming, because I love it so much, and I think I love it because it reminds me of, what do you call it? Like B movie titles.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I know that like Japan, like this is like what Japan does with movies that it gets. It changes the titles I think Infinity War didn't have like necessarily the same, or one of like the Marvel movies didn't have the necessarily the same title. But I think it is just like a marketing thing because Wild Space Euro Mission sounds cooler than Fast and Furious 6. And I think it's
But
just really just a marketing thing. And movies are pretty big in Japan.
it's like, doesn't Japan and all them actually only the reason carry this franchise is still around at this point? Because the actual domestic gross is
I
really
think
like
Japan and
way
China.
lower.
I think it's more so China just because of size.
Because obviously we haven't got to it yet, but I believe when we get to the Fast 8, like it made $1 billion, but like 800 million came from like overseas.
I mean, I don't know. I like to see like the Japanese numbers for it, but again, I think it's China carries most of the money in
Okay.
a lot of these franchises, in general. But yeah, to your point, Kate, I'm not really sure. I would like to see what other like movie franchises like. Does Mission Impossible have the same kind of titles
Oh, I need
as?
to know.
Yeah, that might be something to look into because I'm also like not super sure. But Fast and Furious 6 did make 788 million, and 238 million of that was domestic, and then of course the other 550 million or so comes from the rest of the world. But its budget close, a little, again, bigger movie, more stuff, more money for the budget, $160 million budget, and in late 2011 the Los Angeles Times reported that Universal was approaching the sixth and seventh installment with a single storyline running through both films, with Chris Morgan envisioning themes of freedom and family, but later shifted to account for the studio's wishes to incorporate elements of espionage. So moving away from, so starting to like use heist, but now to go more like spy thriller things. That's what Universal wanted. So he tried to like incorporate that as much as he could. On December 20th in 2011, Diesel stated that Fast 6 would be split into two parts, with the writing of the two films happening at the same time. On that decision, Vin Diesel said, "We have to pay off this story. We have to service all of these characters' relationships." And when we started mapping it all out, that it just went beyond 110 pages. The studio says you can't fit all that story in one damn movie, so that's why they split the movie into two essentially. And Dwayne Johnson stated that the two intended sequels would no longer be filmed simultaneously like they wanted to do. Like they wanted to have them two movies, but film everything all at once, but they couldn't because of weather issues and filming locations, and they basically had to push back the production of Fast 7, which creates a whole like mess of issues for Furious 7, and that we'll talk about here in a second. But and I guess this makes sense because 2011 does have, or 2011, 2013, 14 has a lot of those like, Mockingjay Part 1,
Yeah.
but also Part 2.
Mm-hmm.
So it makes sense that that's what they tried to do for these two movies. I also like the Japanese titles because like they just tell you what you're gonna get.
Mm-hmm.
Because I don't even think I read the premise for Fast and Furious 6. But the family is now retired from heist and street racing shenanigans, but are still fugitives. They are approached by Hobbs, the Rock's character, who offers a chance to clear their records in exchange for helping them take down a mercenary organization led by Owen Shaw, played by Luke Evans. They accept it, but little do they know, Letty, played by Michelle Rodriguez, and Dom's girlfriend, who they thought died in the fourth movie, is working with Owen Shaw. So, and he's Owen Shaw is British, so Wild Space Euro Mission is pretty, to what you're gonna get, which makes sense for Furious 7. No ands, no fast, just Furious 7 in 2015, and this movie in Japan is called Wild Speed Sky
This is
Mission.
my favorite.
This is the one we went and saw, right?
Yes.
Yeah, this is the one we saw where they jumped out of an airplane.
And
which
I
think
nearly
is
cried in the movie theater. This one, okay.
yeah, that is this one.
Right.
Okay.
This one is directed by James Wan, who Kate can tell us does a lot of horror stuff and continues the trend of horror directors just like killing it in other franchises.
He established two genres in his short filmmaking career, or subgenres.
and led Fast and the Furious to make $1.5 billion
Jesus.
around the world.
Is that's just from this movie, correct?
Yeah, that's just this movie.
So did he make it, or was it the death?
Oh, that's
I
fair.
think I think it's him because this movie made $1 billion foreign. I think if it was Paul Walker, it would have. I would imagine the domestic would have been higher because the domestic was only like 300 and something million for this movie.
Okay, because I know anytime anybody's ever talked about this movie, they talk about like, "Oh, death! I went to go see this because of the send off and everything else."
Yeah.
I mean, the send off is
Same.
great, but he also flexes out of
A
cat.
cast.
Or no, he's flexed out of cast in this one.
Yeah.
This is the one where they,
Yeah,
Vin Diesel drives through
That's right.
different
This is the building fall on him?
buildings. Yeah, no,
Uh-huh.
well, that's the previous one.
Okay.
But this is the one where like he drives through like the buildings with the Ferrari.
Oh, this is the Ronda Rousey fight.
Yeah, Ronda
Yeah.
Rousey somehow
Lost.
loses to
Yeah.
Michelle Rodriguez, which would
We're supposed to
never
believe
happen.
that.
I love Michelle
Yeah.
Rodriguez, but there ain't no way in hell.
Yeah, and this is the one where they throw them out of the airplane with parachutes, which I imagine, which is why you get Sky Mission for this. But the family is now living normal lives until Deckard Shaw, who's played by Jason Statham, who is Owen Shaw's brother from the previous movie. He shows up and starts hunting down the family. Han in Tokyo Drift dies. Han dies in Tokyo Drift, and we think it's just like a random accident during a chase scene, but it was actually Deckard Shaw who orchestrated the event. It connects the cameos at the end of Tokyo Drift. They are approached by Mr. Nobody, who's played by Kurt Russell, who is part of an off-the-books government organization who wants to help them find God's Eye, basically a device that helps you find anywhere in the world with movie science. In exchange, like they'll let them use it to find Deckard Shaw so the family can get revenge and such.
So I do want to say, like, there has to be another reason as to why. I mean, other than Furious 7 and Aquaman, James Wan movies don't make money overseas. And they barely make money in the US. So, like, this isn't dissing James Wan's, like, ability to direct in this movie, but it is really interesting because it's not like he has a large base elsewhere. Like, every movie that he's done that isn't Furious 7 or Aquaman that he's directed doesn't even break 50 million.
I want to say, thinking about it, I think just because of the success of the sixth movie and how much money that one made, I think that people got excited to go see the movies again,
Okay.
and that made people show up. And the Paul Walker thing obviously helps.
It's really well. I actually thought this movie was really fun.
This
Yeah.
movie is awful. Like, it hurt my head.
You're awful,
The
and
absurdity.
you don't like fun.
Oh, I lost my goddamn mind once The Rock busted out of that cast. I lost my goddamn mind. It was crazy.
Yeah, like this is, I don't know. This is a good one. I enjoyed this one.
It's a fun one. I think that's really fun. But Furious 7 is the highest grossing movie that James Wan has ever directed.
Yeah, 1.5 billion is nothing to be
No,
upset about.
that's a lot of money.
And also that
Yeah.
was what I said for James Wan numbers. That was just US wise. Worldwide, yeah, he still doesn't make over. His highest movie after those two is 320 million. With his lowest
Yeah,
being
and
70
the-
million.
And the success of this movie is like even crazier considering that all that went on during its production. Because like I said for the previous movie, they didn't film them back to back, so things had to be changed around, and it just created a whole bunch of like domino effects. So Universal basically lacked a major event movie for 2014, so they quickly rushed Furious 7 into production as soon as they could after Furious 6. And as a result, Jeremy Lin decided not to return to direct the seventh film, as he was still in post-production for Fast and Furious 6. So pre-production began in mid 2013. However, during filming, Paul Walker died in a single vehicle crash on November 30th, 2013, which only had the film half completed at that point. Following Walker's death, the filming was delayed for script rewrites, and his brothers Caleb and Cody were hired as stand-ins to complete the remaining scenes. So, don't have the same director. You don't have basically the same team making the movie. You have one of your titular actors in the movie die, and you're still able to come together, have a great send-off for Paul Walker, which is amazing, and make $1.5 billion with a horror director leading your movie. Then we have Fate of the Furious, which is one of my favorite titles because it starts back with the wordplay. So this is the 8th movie, and this one's out in 2017. And the name of this movie in Japan is Wild Speed Icebreak.
This one also so
And
good.
if only for the fact that a submarine busts through the ice in this movie, I think is the only reason why it's called Icebreak. But this one is directed by Felix Gray, who did Friday, The Italian Job, and Straight Out of Compton.
F. Gary Gray?
Yeah, Felix Gary Gray. Felix Gary?
Okay, no. His name is Felix. He just goes by F. Gary Gray.
Oh, I don't know why I wrote. I think I wrote F. Yeah, I wrote F. Gary Gray somewhere else. I think I just put Felix Gray because IMDb
First name,
had
yes.
Felix Gray on there.
That's fine.
Yeah.
I just
But
wanted. I was just
yeah,
like, I'm
sorry.
pretty sure that's who you're talking. Yeah. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I like this movie. This one doesn't do as well as Furious 7. I believe this one makes 1.2 billion, so it doesn't do like as
But
good.
It still gets $1 billion.
But
This is the one that the discrepancy which we've known. We've looked at it where it's like 800 and 900 that billion came, or half that billion came from overseas. Like it was crazy because like I think this movie only made barely any more, little bit. I think domestically more than like Logan for that year. But then like when you count overseas, you're like, oh my gosh, how much money this movie made.
Yeah, this one made over $1 billion overseas, but only 226 million domestically.
Yeah.
Which I don't know. I think the movie's great. Like Dom actually has some really great moments in this one.
This isn't the one where he yells like the street winds or some whatever.
No, that was like 3 movies ago.
Oh gosh, that one.
Like 3 movies.
Oh, that one hurt my head too. Okay.
Yeah, but have you seen that fight scene with lightsabers?
Oh no.
They do like the thing where they put like
scene?
Yes.
they put like lightsabers over like because they're fighting with like wrenches and stuff, or like sticks or poles. I don't really know, but they put lightsaber things on it, and it looks kind of cool in like production.
I also know that like, and I'm sure you'll talk about it maybe a little bit with the whole like Rock stuff, but I know that Vin Diesel has like specific requirements for when he fights The Rock in these movies. Like it has to be shot so that he looks as tall as him.
Yeah, we'll talk about that a little bit later. But I will say that like there's like specific stuff for all of the actors, like how much damage they can take. Like Michelle Rodriguez, like in their thing, like she can only get beat up so much before she wins, kind of thing.
Really?
So it's not even just Vin Diesel and The Rock. Like they all.
They're all
No,
extra.
I mean, Jason Statham has.
sadly.
Yeah, Jason Statham has like that kind of thing in his thing as well. As like you can only get punched so many times, which puts us on a whole thing that we'll talk about here a little bit. But Fate of the Furious is basically Dom turns his back on the family, which is like, whoa, Dom, why did you turn your back on the family? And then the family finds out why. A submarine busts through the ice. The Rock throws a torpedo. I'm pretty sure.
Yes.
Oh.
Yes, I remember that.
Oh.
What's the woman actor Charlize Theron?
Yeah,
Is that how you say her name?
Sarah.
Yeah.
Sure. She's fantastic in this one. I like her in this one a whole lot. I also think it's either this one or the one before. No, it's the one before that where they basically throw. I can't think of her name off the top of my head. Game of Thrones, season 8. She gets her head chopped off at the end and gets like pushed off the wall.
Oh, Miss Andre? I don't remember her.
Yeah, I can't think of her like. I can't remember the actor's name. I was trying to remember it. That's the one like where like they threw her and like they caught her in the thing. They kind
Oh,
of
is it the one
that in Hobbs.
they threw her out of the car to catch her in a car with the missile and all the other?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, this is
Oh,
the one where they
gosh,
jump through
okay.
the window, right?
Uh,
I don't know. Continue.
I think no, yeah, I think that was the last one where they jumped through the window.
No,
but
yeah.
yeah, this one has a bunch of crazy stuff. I'm pretty sure Michelle Rodriguez like kicks someone into like a torpedo propeller. I think is the one that she does. I think she does that in this one. It's crazy. But then you also have like Dom like with his son and like that moment where like Theron like almost like kills her son and like Dom sheds a tear, which we've never seen Dom shed a tear. So it's kind of crazy. So the toll of directing the movie with the additional reshoots dissuaded James Wan from returning for the 8th movie. So they hired Gary.
Gary
Gray.
a letter for the first one, but it's F. Gary Gray. That's
yeah.
Your name's Felix. Get over it.
So this film began a new trilogy of like movies, which will end the entire franchise. We think maybe. Following the release of Furious 7, Vin Diesel said regarding a possible sequel. So like, thinking about the 8th movie, I was trying to keep it close to the vest throughout the release. Paul Walker used to say that an 8th film was guaranteed. In some ways, when your brother guarantees something and you sometimes feel like you have to make sure it comes to pass. So if fate has it, then you'll get this when you hear about it. Furious 7 was for Paul. The 8th film is from Paul.
Aww.
Yeah. So Moritz, also one of the producers, also said that the film should focus the franchise from like again shifting the franchise. This is like the transitional movie of shifting the franchise from heists to spy capers, similar to that of Fast 5, from street racing to heist films. It's like starting a new kind of franchise or not genre for the like last trilogy. So that's kind of our 8 movies, but we have our spinoffs. In 2015, Diesel announced in an interview with Variety that potential spinoffs were in the early stages of development. Originally, the 9th film in the main series was supposed to be released in April 2019, followed by the 10th in April 2021. This caused a lot of controversy because that doesn't happen. Because we get Hobbs and Shaw. Well, we get Fast and Furious presents Hobbs and Shaw. In 2019, and in Japan, it's called Wild Space Super Combo.
That is a better name.
That's a dope title.
That's such a better name.
That's such a dope title.
And this movie, which we've all seen, is the first spinoff with Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson and Jason Statham's character Shaw in the previous movie. There's also a female-centered movie spinoff to be made eventually with
they only got
Vin
like
Diesel.
one.
What? They have a bunch of women in this series. You talking about this?
They kind of threw them out all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah, Michelle Rodriguez. Yeah, Jordana Brewster, and you have
Mia is barefoot.
I can't.
Or like barefoot in a mom.
She drives a car sometimes.
Not for years.
How much was Gal Gadot in this thing when she like?
She got thrown off of a plane.
Ah, well, in this series she might have lived.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. I never saw a body. Did you see a body? Han could still come back. Who knows?
I saw Crank 2, or the preview. I saw Crank 1, and then they made Crank 2. That's better saying.
Okay. I personally don't think that this series.
Also, the Brazilian chick in the 5th movie.
The Brazilian chick.
Jesus Christ.
Letty, the Brazilian chick, and Mia with her kid.
And Gina Carano. She's pretty badass.
Second.
I don't know. That leads into like some stuff we'll talk about later. But yes, I imagine Letty's going to be in it. But anyway, like I was saying, Diesel and Chris Morgan, who's been producer for like ever, and they have 3 women screenwriters: Nicole Perlman, who was a writer on Guardians of the Galaxy, Captain Marvel, and Deadpool, Lindsay Beer, who I couldn't find anything on, and Geneva Robertson Duarte, who was a writer for Tomb Raider 2018 and Captain Marvel as well. So bringing on, hey, there's gonna be some fighting in women empowerment in that movie, I'm sure.
Oh gosh, we still know that they will stand up.
Can Michelle Rodriguez stand up? Well, we're gonna find out. So we also have future movies that we already know. So that spinoff we don't really know other than who's going to be on it, like when it's going to be released. But the future movies that we do know that are going to be released are Fast and Furious 9. Don't know the Japanese title yet. To be released in May 22nd, 2020. Justin Lin's returning to direct the movie. John Cena apparently is going to be in it, but The Rock is not going to be in this one.
Because he has his own franchise now.
Because he has his own franchise, basically. I personally have already pitched what I think should happen in the 7th movie, aka Fast and Furious Cloud 9. And you can find that in episode 50.
You know that's 60 episodes ago.
Yeah, 60 episodes ago. I don't know. We can insert my plot right here if we want. But I think it's a great movie. It involves them going down in World War III. It's a big thing. It'll be great. Then there's an untitled Fast and Furious 10 in April 2nd, in April 2021. And there's also the animated show that's supposed to be released later this year, Fast and Furious Spy Racers.
Jesus Christ!
Bye.
The trailer looks pretty good, and I'm kind of.
Oh, there's a trailer. I haven't seen the trailer yet.
The protagonist of the series will be Tony Toretto, Dom's cousin. And then he's supposed to be recruited by a government agency, and him and his friends are going to take down some other things with cars, but animated wise or something. DreamWorks. It's a DreamWorks production, and the main producers, including Vin Diesel, have worked on it, as well as the producer from the legendary Voltron, and All Hail King Julian are also going to be on this. So just given like the kind of team that's there, I think it'll be, an interesting watch. Maybe, who knows?
I mean, people like Voltron. I liked All Hail King Julian. To that last season, I feel like they just gave up. And we have to make one.
Yeah, and that's kind of like my thing with thinking of that, because Voltron and All Hail King Julian had not so great finishes. And
yeah, I'm telling you,
worried about this one.
All Hail King Julian. That last season, they were like, oh man, they made us do one more season. They just mailed in that whole thing. I was like, oh man, this guy. Ugh.
Yeah. So we'll see what happens.
I have not seen either one of those shows, so
All Hail King Julian's really good. I would recommend it. The last season is rough, and they definitely just mailed it in. But the first, I think it's 5 seasons, are pretty good.
Okay.
Yeah, Voltron's pretty good. The last couple episodes are like, do we have to go that way? But overall, pretty good. So from the production history, there's more stuff going on behind the scenes when you talk about the production history. So the money flow isn't stopping, but breaking up the cast might be going on. So Michelle Rodriguez has almost quit the franchise multiple times, which is a big deal, considering we talked about, she's the only. I mean, I think there's more than one woman,
okay,
but
no, there are more than okay. She is the only.
I know what you're saying. I'm sorry. Yeah. When Mia's not pregnant.
So did Mia get?
She's not even there. Wait, she's gone.
So tell me, does Mia Mia's basically tied to Paul Walker, and then sadly, when Paul Walker basically gone, that means Mia's gone, correct?
Yes.
Well, I mean, yeah, but I didn't see the other 4 in between that, so I didn't know. Like I said, I remember her in the first movie. She was in the second one. We had Eva Mendes, and then The
Oh
third
yeah,
movie.
yeah. Eva Mendes can come back
Oh, I'd be
for
down
that
with
movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be a good one.
Yeah.
So during the making of the first movie, Rodriguez expressed that Letty's arc, like, she was just like, "What? Why would they do that?" Because apparently in the original thing, she was supposed to cheat on Dom with Brian. And she said, "My whole point in being an actress is that I thought that I got to live the dream. I don't dream of being a slut. Do you?" Exacerbated language, she said. I'm not sure why that was in the script, or if like Vin Diesel had anything to do with like taking that out of the script. But yeah, that's pretty bad.
Which, I mean, like, I think it also makes sense. Like, I don't like her language there so much, but I think ultimately, like, when it comes to like roles that Michelle Rodriguez has taken, she's taken roles very deliberately in the same way. I mean, because like people choose what they do. Like, she's tried really hard to only take roles that she either identifies with the character with or is gonna push her, which is why she was like a completely different character in Widows when she took that. But she like that's the reason we know her as a tough girl is because of the roles that she's chosen since Girl Fight.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, and I think that we talked about this in the last episode that like, yeah, I mean, there are like times where she doesn't say probably the most correct things about about
the
things,
essence of what she's
but
saying is right, but that girl does not have the words to articulate it.
yeah. But like what she says does work, because even in the female-centered movie, it's thought to be due like largely in part to Michelle Rodriguez openly asking the franchise to do better for the women of the series on Instagram after the release of Fate of the Furious. So she was like very open that she wanted the franchise to do better for women, even after the $1.2 billion success of Fate of the Furious. And then she was mulling over whether or not she was even going to return for the ninth movie. And she said, she said back in February of this year, "I don't know if I'm coming back. I've read the script first. Once I read the script, I'll know. Or once I read the script, I'll know. When I read the script, when I read the script, I hope that it's inclusive. Then I'll agree to come back or not. My energy is completely directed towards the feminine right now and supporting women. I've spent most of my life shooting guns and hanging out with the boys and watching them scratch their balls and smelling protein mixed farts. And now I'm feeling the poetry and the beauty and the sensuality of women and the power we bring together. So we need to show more love to the women. I don't know which direction it's going to go, but I know that I'm headed in that direction, and we'll see if that matches." She is going to be in the ninth movie, so maybe some stuff did happen there. And she basically signed on immediately after they added a female writer to the ninth movie.
So again, I don't like the way she articulated that, but she's at least like, I think that it's okay for her to acknowledge, like, yeah, I know what I've made my career on, but I'm kind of moving towards this other thing. And I honestly feel like she also probably signed on after doing Widows, where it kind of gave her that. But I mean, I will be the first to say that I don't expect the Fast and the Furious to have a lot of women or be great with women, and that's kind of okay, because that's not what the films are about. It's about big guns and big muscles, and it's like Rambo, but with cars and heists. So, yeah.
Yeah.
I think it would make more sense for her to leave, honestly. Like, to stick to that piece and just be like, yeah, I'm not really with this anymore. Deuces, guys. But I do think it's cool that Vin Diesel's like actually listening to her, at least. Like, I think that shows it.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that's what it seems like. I mean, we don't have any trailer or anything like that to kind of see like why she signed on, but I know that it was like a big thing that I think in March or like April, like almost immediately after she said this in an interview, they added on a female writer and then she agreed to come on.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
and then we have The Rock versus Vin Diesel, which isn't as bad as like The Rock versus Tyrese stuff that we'll get into a little bit later, but there's definitely like some rocky stuff there.
Hey,
So the fifth movie, and we'll kind of go like by like movies on like where this beef starts, but it really starts in the fifth movie where Vin Diesel didn't want to lose any fights to The Rock. Well, he didn't want to lose any fights, period. But like, if it's The Rock, like you kind of don't want to lose any fights there. And he actually beats The Rock in that one fight where he almost hits him with the wrench, which is like reminiscent of him, beating that one guy to death like all those years ago.
I do want to say, if we're gonna say it doesn't make sense that Michelle Rodriguez would beat Ronda Rousey, I also feel like I need to say that it does not make sense that Vin Diesel would beat The Rock.
Oh yeah, definitely. That's like something, yeah. And then I don't know how true this is, but I was listening to another podcast when they were reviewing Hobbs and Shaw, and they were talking about how a really big story broke out about the contracts between how much actual like damage or like how much like the characters would be willing to take in terms of punching and fighting and stuff. And apparently, I don't know how true this is, but Vin Diesel's sister actually does work behind the scenes in the production, and she'll step in anytime that she sees that her brother is taking too many punches or that they're making him look like a wimp or weaker, I guess, in a sense. So I thought that was interesting.
Yeah. So like, wow.
Yeah, I think I read that too.
Yeah, it got published in a few places. And I did look because you said Michelle Rodriguez has one. Michelle Rodriguez doesn't have contract on that, as much as I can tell. It's mainly Vin Diesel, The Rock, and Statham has had it like his entire career. And they essentially treat it like karate tournaments, in that they have point systems assigned to where you get hit and how you get hit, and the points always have to outweigh each other. For like,
Yeah, and it really throws obviously like the fight choreography into some crazy situations from what I read as well. But like this kind of macho shit like starts in the fifth movie, because really before this, like no one really fights The Rock or fights Vin Diesel's character.
Oh, yeah.
Like ever. I mean, in the first movie, like he literally who's in my face? I'm in your face. Like that is basically like the most that we get, really. He punches the Asian guy too. But you kind of just know, like, and that's Dom. You don't mess with Dom. And the Rock coming in kind of throws it off a little bit.
That's interesting.
And then one of the big things is after the sixth movie, The Rock took credit for being franchise Viagra and single-handedly reigniting the franchise on SNL, which Vin Diesel obviously doesn't like, right? Because he's the one behind the scenes, like bringing the series together. But he had like a whole monologue on it, on like how he like is franchise Viagra.
Actually said that?
Yeah.
Oh God.
That's crazy.
And as a result, I mean, I don't know if this is like as a result, but if you remember in the seventh movie, The Rock spends most of the movie in a hospital bed and isn't really in the seventh movie that much, except for at the end when he flexes out of a cast and shoots down a helicopter with a machine gun. But other than that, he's basically in bed, like chilling with his daughter, basically that entire movie. I don't know if that's like I don't know if he doesn't like that, but it seems like when you like talk shit, you might get thrown in the hospital bed.
I mean, that makes sense. Oh God.
Yeah, it kind of does make sense to me. But even bigger in the eighth movie, so the Fate of the Furious marketing was predicated on a simple hook. Like, there's no more family. Dom went rogue, and it was up to Hobbs and the rest of the family to take him down. It was basically The Rock versus Vin Diesel round two, and then again, $1.2 billion later, people loved it.
Yeah.
However, have you noticed that The Rock and Vin Diesel don't share a single scene together? So, like, the word on the street was that production, the word on the street, because the street always wins, that production of the movie was troubled, and then The Rock basically, like, this is like kind of the start of the whole Instagram thing where he was calling, like, his male stars candy asses, and it was, like, linked that Vin Diesel was, like, the candy ass in mention. But like this was like the start. I mean, I don't know, maybe it's happened before, but like there was like talk of how The Rock would show up late to set and like he was just being like a prima donna and blah 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 blah. But then he started calling them candy asses on Instagram. And then in the ninth movie, apparently things are patched up from what we have seen. However, pushing back the release date of the 9th movie to accommodate Hobbs and Shaw doesn't sit well with one man, Tyrese. So I had like a bunch of Tyrese's posts on these show notes because I just wanted to like read them. Because even though like the Rock and Tyrese have like gone back and forth on Instagram, well, mostly like Tyrese going at the Rock and the Rock kind of answering sometimes. Both of them have kind of like deleted a lot of these posts, but the internet doesn't forget, and you can still go find like all of this stuff anywhere. Again, it's basically like an Instagram beef that kind of starts with the whole candy asses thing. You can still find them, but most recently Tyrese posted on Instagram basically after the Hobbs and Shaw thing because it didn't open to like a crazy box office amount like the 6th and 7th.
Didn't it
or the
open
7th.
for like 100 and something million?
No, it's still open. Yeah, no, yeah. I mean, it had a big opening weekend, but it's. I don't think it's going to make $1.2 billion. I think is like what he's trying to get at here. Maybe I don't know. He's angry about stuff. So he said on Instagram, "I have to show my respect for one thing. He tried. Folks called me a hater, attacked me for speaking out. Breaking up the family clearly doesn't have the value that one would assume it does." The caption gets cut out, but the rest of it is there. You know what? Maybe, just maybe, the Rock and crew will come to dance with us again for Fast 10. We can all hug it out and get back to giving the true fans who have supported this franchise for 20 years what they want. Not hating. I'm just pointing out the facts. Yeah. And then he continued to say like Fast Family has more value as the Fast Family and not just like The Rock. Which, yeah. And there's that one time when like they asked The Rock if he's listened to Tyrese's new album, and he's like, I've never listened to that shit. And yeah. That's kind of where we're at in this whole beef thing. And then like earlier this year or last year, he was asked like on an interview, and he was just like, I don't know, man, a beef kind of has to go both ways, and I kind of just like don't talk to the guy.
That is so bad.
Yeah.
Nobody cares what Tyrese has to say.
Yeah, exactly. No one cares.
See,
I mean,
but
like,
my point in this is when like multiple people are like annoyed with like the shit you do, like maybe like The Rock also isn't like the best person in the world either.
Oh yeah.
I don't care if
Oh,
The Rock's
yeah.
the best person, but Tyrese, nobody cares that Tyrese exists in this franchise.
oh, yeah.
Tyrese knows that-
Despacito, cuz.
Yeah, that was what, 20 years ago? Guess what? You're still riding that off in Baby Boy. That's about it.
Baby boy.
We know you're broke. We know you don't need anything. You need this franchise 10 times more than The Rock does, and we already know that.
Yeah, 100%.
You need that 1.2 billion because you don't have. You have 1.2 dollars.
$1.2.
Like, I get it, and I know it, and I don't mind the Vin Diesel stuff because Vin Diesel's baby and everything. I don't care. Nobody cares about Tyrese. Like Vin Diesel, this has been his baby. He's put a lot of work into it. I can see him getting mad at The Rock, and that's perfectly fine. But nobody cares about Tyrese. Like Roman Pierce. I forgot what the hell his name was.
Yeah, you got it, Roman Pierce.
There we go. You played in a movie with Eva Mendes, and we remember that more in Ejectocito, and that's about all we remember from you.
Ejectocito. Can we clip that? Yeah. Again, like I think Tyrese and Vin Diesel have like similar arguments. Like, but Vin Diesel also just isn't on Instagram like talking shit about The Rock.
I think that's the difference, right?
He does it more subtly of like, we're going to be adding to the family because family matters for everything. Hello, John Cena. Like that kind of like.
I mean,
So,
yeah, but I'm. Oh, go ahead. Okay, sorry. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, like, the fact that at least, like, Tyrese is that person. Tyrese is a person with 3 followers who just ats everybody, but nobody ever engages with, but you know that they're real angry anyway. That's what Tyrese looks like. Versus, like, Vin Diesel with, like Matt said, like, he started this. Now, to your point, Adrian, I really feel like The Rock is probably J-Lo levels of diva on set. So,
Well, everything I've gotten from Vin Diesel, he's probably up there on that level too at this point.
That's fair. But
From
the
these
difference is,
notes?
like Vin Diesel, that's his franchise, so he can be that way.
Well, technically, it's not. The Riddick one is. Universal gave him that one,
Okay.
but I don't know. I just keep thinking of the stuff between Tyrese, Michelle Rodriguez. Like they're making 1.2 billion, and it's not because either one of you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I want to get it, but I'm like, you two can be out of the movie, and we're still gonna make $1 billion because I don't even know what
Yeah.
they did.
It could just be like
Michelle Rodriguez
it
is
could just-
probably more integral to the plot than Tyrese.
yeah,
Is she?
considering
Well, I guess at this point, like, I mean, how much more? Like, what, 2% to 4%?
I mean, her death is like the premise of like the fourth movie, and then
Coming back.
the sixth movie is basically
but
her
wait-
coming back. Like Tyrese is just like
Fair.
he's
Yeah,
there.
He's just
we know-
there.
He's
I mean,
there
Ludacris is
for
better than Tyrese in this point, and Ludacris started out as just a guy with a computer.
Ludacris' character is better. Tej is
I
dope.
love Tej.
But
Yes.
I mean, Tyrese at the end of the day is like just there for like the one-liners and for The Rock to yell insults at, which are probably more real than they should be. But
Baby oil.
you know,
Right,
baby
right,
oil.
right. Because it was in the sixth film, right? That like The Rock, like blatantly took a jab at
Yeah,
Tyrese, and it was like completely unscripted,
yeah,
and then everyone was just like laughing on set.
yeah. But Tyrese probably real hurt about it. Yeah, but now I mean, and like I said, like Hobbs and Shaw's like doing well, but when you open up to like 60, I think it was like 60 million, I think it's opening weekend, and like Fate of the Furious, and I'm pretty sure Furious,
It had to be more
seven-
than 60 million though, because if they're at 400 million already, it's only been out for 2 weeks.
they're hold on, let me pull up. Well, they're at 332 million, with 100 million of that being domestic, and its opening weekend was 60 million compared to the 147 million opening weekend of Fate of the Furious 7, and the 900 or the 98 million opening of Fate of the Furious. So not the same kind of financial success, at least at the moment. And the foreign numbers aren't even that big of a discrepancy like the other movies are. So I don't think it's going to be the huge success that the other two were, which is, I guess,
So how much money do we
point.
say this movie has to make to be a success then? Because I mean, to be fair, as much
I
as
mean,
we
yeah.
are saying is these are two characters they kind of
It was made on
introduce that
200
nobody.
million, so it needs to make 600 million to be qualified as a blockbuster success. Triple.
I think it'll make 600
no,
million.
triple its
Ah.
budget. So
No,
Yeah.
I get that. I'm talking about. I think it will actually make 600 million.
Yeah, I think it can make 600 million. Yeah.
yeah, it would be.
I guess
For,
to me it's just weird one, just because like I don't know, it's just so weird because like I still feel like obviously 600 million is still a lot. It's still less than what I think it would be, but for being shit. Hold on. Sorry. Okay, but no, being 600 million in general is still like, I mean, it's literally a spin-off movie with like two characters who not even like main characters, and to still make like even 600 million, I think is impressive.
It has The Rock.
I know, but we're also talking about if we are based on everything. Well, okay, put it this way: you think if we put Tyrese in a movie with putting Fast and the Furious?
I'm saying like The Rock is known even for his shitty movies to make a lot of money because he's The Rock.
Yeah, but I mean, here we are. I don't know. Even to make 600 million, it's still half of what the other movie made.
Yeah.
So who knows?
mean-
And he's not going to be in the ninth one, which is kind of weird. Considering like he was like a pseudo, part of the family.
So,
But then, like light spoilers for Hobbs and Shaw, because I guess they showed the stuff in the trailer. But like he has his own kind of family thing going on with his family. Again, another actual family member of his, Roman Reigns, in that movie. So another wrestler thing.
All right.
yeah, I think. So I do have a question. When he was announced for not being in the ninth Fast and the Furious movie, they still haven't confirmed that there will be another Hobbs and Shaw movie, right?
Yeah, from what I can see, I mean, unless like they've announced something recently, I don't think they've done anything for the next spinoff.
So essentially,
The only spinoffs that I know about are the ones that I talked
okay,
about.
So essentially, he's just pretty much axed out of the franchise, or not axed out, but like he's not in the franchise, essentially.
He's
For the
in
ninth
universe.
movie. Yeah, he's in the universe. Yeah, I think that's a good way to put it. Like he might come back for the 10th. Who knows? I imagine he would come back for the 10th. Like if Hobbs and Shaw doesn't make its gains like it should.
Okay. So
Um,
it's kind of like a backdoor TV pilot. Like that's what that spin-off movie is. You do it to test. You probably won't lose that much money, but
well, yeah, I mean, like that's like Tyrese's thing, right? Like, oh, like you don't care about the franchise. You just want to go like do a spin-off and like hope you
Yeah.
do your thing and then have like the Hobbs and Shaw
That's
show,
okay,
which
yeah.
at this point, who knows? I mean, if it makes 600 million, I'm sure they'll probably give him another one, but I don't know.
Yeah.
Not sure.
Yeah, the fact I also think it's also interesting that like the fact that a Rock movie is kind of like in question as to whether or not he'll get another one is really interesting given.
That's really all I got. I just wanted to talk about like the production history to kind of see that the transition from just racing was intentional. But you know, Vin Diesel always just tried to keep no matter like if they're robbing houses or 18 wheelers or if they're jumping, you know, Ferraris through buildings in India, it's all about the family at the end of the day. And I think it even bleeds over a little bit into Hobbs and Shaw, like that movies basically like, you know, them rekindling family stuff. So I think the spirit is still there, and no matter which way they go, we'll see what happens. And then all this other drama stuff. I'm interested to see how it plays out with the ninth movie.
Yeah.
And even if they do get a spinoff for Hobbs and Shaw. And I hope that the female-centered one is good, I guess. I mean, I'm going to go see it. But yeah, that's all I got. Final thoughts, Matt. You want to go first?
People are gonna go see this movie. I'm sorry for those people. No, yeah. I mean, I guess I still enjoy the first one. I enjoyed when it was kind of about the cars. We did whatever. I know people. Obviously, Nikko explained why he's here, of why they keep adding people. As long as they're gonna make money, you know, they're just gonna keep pumping into it. Because that's all we do today's movies, whether it is The Rock or whether it is Fast and the Furious or it's any other type of franchise. That's just what we're going to do. They will ride this until they can't ride it anymore, and then they'll probably dump it. But, I mean, I guess we'll be interested. I'm just here for, like, the Instagram fights, even though it's still weird that people fight on Instagram of all places. But, like, sure. I'm sure we can get another video of Tyrese crying sometime.
I forgot about that.
But, yeah, I mean, people like it. People still show up, so they're gonna keep making them.
What about you, Nikko?
Well, I mean, I don't know. I've had my own conflicts with this sort of with all these films and series. I'm kind of glad that they sort of like distance themselves from car culture, and it just became just like a really overly ridiculous action films. Yeah, and the only reason I'm probably gonna go see Fast 9 is because of John Cena. If he wasn't in it, or if another actor that I seemingly liked wasn't in it, probably wouldn't care. Sorry.
Give us all of the WWE universe.
I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if by like 5 years from now, it's just like a whole bunch of them are just in there.
Would it be
But
as good
who
as
knows?
you
Yeah.
Adrian, what if Stone Cold Steve Austin came in the Fast and Furious franchise? Bringing back American Muscle.
I'm not. Oh my God! Wait, that's actually like
Right?
a perfect tagline. I'm gonna go write it right now. I'm gonna go write it right now. Oh man, I gotta go redo my Fast and the Furious 9 pitch to include John Cena in it.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Man.
You should do it, and you should also work in Stone Cold.
Yeah, and then like transition into like 10th movie, having Stone Cold. Like I don't know, he beats the shit out of The Rock or something. I don't know. It's in there. It's in there somewhere. Just Universal, holla at your boy, and what can you say? What about you, Kate? You got some final thoughts?
I just really liked Tokyo Drift, and I like the way The Rock looks, and I like the way Jason Statham fights. So that's why I really wanted to see Hobbs and Shaw. I also just like really big action movies, so I'll probably watch the 9th one. It does intrigue me that Michelle Rodriguez signed on, but I'm also just kind of like, this might get interpreted the wrong way, but like there are moments where franchises aren't for you, and I just don't think that like the way the Fast and the Furious franchise has been set up, it hasn't completely disrespected its female characters in the way other actions movies have. Like it's actually been fairly good. I mean, they just have a revolving door of them, but it's not necessarily awful. So just I mean, kudos to her for fighting for more stuff, but at the same time I'm just kind of like, I expect big dudes hitting each other with big things and cars. So I am not too interested in a female centered one, but we'll see. And I actually
What
really like John Cena.
what would you want it to be titled?
What?
Like what would like the title? Fast. I can't even think. Like what would like a
Fast and the
female centered?
Furious
Fast and Furious presents.
Oh yeah, Fast and the Furious presents. I don't know. Letty trying to find more women to be in this franchise for more than a movie.
She literally goes back and finds every like even the in Too Fast Too Furious. Yuki.
Yes.
She gets a Yuki from
dope.
Too Fast Too Furious.
That's it. It is just Letty discovering time travel and going back and collecting all of the women from the previous movies.
Jesus.
It's Endgame, but with Michelle Rodriguez
But the
getting
random
everybody.
women are the Infinity Stones. Yeah, we're getting at it so hard. Yeah. I thought Hobbs and Shaw was fun, so go watch it. That's all I got. And I don't have anything else.
Yeah, Hobbs and Shaw is fun. Yeah, like it's what you expect. Idris Elba's great. They have a bunch of cool cameos in it from
Okay,
people that I
so
didn't
I
expect
will
to
say
ever be
this.
in this franchise.
Spoiler for Hobbs and Shaw, so you can stop listening to us now if that's what you want to do. But I'm tired of Idris Elba dying and getting shitted on in his movies. That man deserves so much more.
Yeah. That was a big disappointment. And I kind of figured that they would find a way to somehow like bring him on back to the team, since that's what basically the Fast and Furious franchise is now, bringing back old villains and somehow being redeemed. But
Yeah. Okay. I'm sorry. I just had to say that.
I just thought in the same realm of spoilers.
Wait, what?
What?
Ryan Reynolds was
Why-
great in that movie.
Like I never thought that would ever happen in a million years. Like you could have given me like a
Ryan
list.
Reynolds.
Oh, yeah.
Ryan Reynolds.
I love Ryan Reynolds.
Like, you could give me like a list of actors who are going to be in this franchise, and Ryan Reynolds was not going to be on that
It was
list.
so good.
What? Oh yeah, was Kevin Hart on that list?
No.
Kevin Hart. I would have put him on that list just because of his relationship with The Rock, but I didn't think like.
He's too short to be
What?
on that list.
oh my god.
Is it not? Am I
couldn't
not
This
reach
is a whole nother debate.
He couldn't reach
Yeah.
the sign-up sheet.
But it makes sense. It kind of makes sense that he's in it though, because if you look like at the reason like why we talked about this in our The Rock episode, in the movie he wears like that shirt with a 7 on it,
Yeah.
for $7 productions, and they helped make this movie. So I'm sure that The Rock was just like calling up all his friends who wanted to be in the movie, and I'm pretty sure Kevin Hart as a fucking flight marshal came up on that list. But that's all I got.
Yeah.
Let's get out of here. I'm gonna go watch Hobbs and Shaw again. See you later.
Again, thank you, Nico, for being on this episode. Why don't you tell everybody where they can find you?
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter at Ego the Or, where I talk about wrestling, post my articles, and some other nonsensical crap that I decided to put.
Where are these articles housed?
Oh, right. They're on the beautiful website known as the But Why Tho website that these wonderful people have decided to invite me on, and I write stuff. And yeah, I could have probably said that a lot better, but
It's okay.
It'll work.
That works. As always, if you want to support us a little more, head on over to patreon.com/butwhythopc. You get access to our research notes and exclusive episodes, as well as episodes earlier and ad-free. And you can find me at OhMyMythRandier on Twitter. Adrian?
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter at SuperRuiz93, SuperRuiz 93.
I'm just gonna go look up Mission Impossible titles from Japan and see how amazing and better those are.